So in this chapter, we're going to talk about e-commerce. We're going to talk about some models of e-commerce. We're going to talk about some concepts, things like business to business and business to consumer types of models, stuff that you may have, you may have heard of before. Okay. So e-commerce began in about 1995. Can be traced back to the beginning of the internet. The internet is the technology and the infrastructure that supports e-commerce and all of the different applications of e-commerce. Companies that survived the dot-com bubble, and there were a lot of companies that around the end of the 90s, the beginning, about 2000, 1999, 2000s, were jumping on the bandwagon to get into e-commerce because it was the new technology that everybody thought they needed to be on there. There were a lot of companies that failed. There are different reasons why different companies failed. Some of them didn't adopt their business strategy to e-commerce. They basically thought they could take their existing business strategy and move it over to the internet and that it would fly. And some of these companies, just didn't work out. Okay, but the companies that survived that dot-com bubble are now thriving. A lot of them are thriving. And the internet has created a lot of opportunities for smaller companies to operate on a more level playing field with larger companies to expand their customer base to a more global customer base. So e-commerce has really changed the way that the business environment that we find ourselves in. Okay, and you can kind of see, they give you this chart to show you the growth of e-commerce, starting in '95, which is where they trace the beginning of e-commerce to. And again, it's still in its relative infancy, less than 20 years, give or take, that e-commerce has been the existing platform. So we're still seeing changes. We're still seeing growth. Now there's a few the book actually gives you 8 different reasons why e-commerce is different from the existing models that were in place before e-commerce, before e-commerce kind of took over. E-commerce creates this ubiquitous environment. You can get online almost anywhere. You can access resources connected to the internet almost anywhere, especially with the popularity of different types of mobile devices, the advances in these mobile devices making them your smartphones more and more like small computers that you carry around with you. E-commerce has created this marketplace that doesn't ever shut down, is 24/7, that doesn't know global geographic barriers, right? And it has enhanced the customer experience. Really, there's more information. Customers are more empowered because they can easily find and compare information. People know what it is that they want, how much they want to pay for it, and this is all can be traced back to the e-commerce and the internet as a technology to support that. Okay, e-commerce has a global reach, right? It's a technology that connects people from all parts of the world, and it creates marketplaces that are global. The internet, now we talked about standards, and actually one of the midterm questions was on technology standards. The internet creates, the standards that the internet is based upon, TCP/IP and some of the other security standards, things like that. They create this universal platform that disparate different types of computers and devices can all talk to one another and connect because they're all utilizing these internet standards, okay? It lowers market entry cost. New companies can easily enter these markets. You can think of some companies that would not exist, huge companies that would not exist if it were not for the internet, right? eBay, Amazon. It lowers consumer search costs. It's so much easier for consumers to find information and to get access to that information. And again, it's a very empowering thing for consumers. Okay? The internet supports this very richness of messages and information because it supports video, it supports audio, it supports text information. Okay, so you can deliver information simultaneously to a whole large numbers of people using the internet, right? You can broadcast video live and have millions of people watching at the same time. You can create very rich marketing messages using all of these different types of multimedia that the internet supports. Interactivity is a big part of what really drives people to the internet. Consumers are engaged because of the fact that they are able to interact with companies, with tools, with each other. And they become this idea of this co-participant in this process because Web 2.0 tools are really about a lot of user-generated content and sharing that with other people. And consumers really like that. You have information density. A large amount of information is out there, and it's cheaper to get that information and make it available to others. So you have transparency of the prices and costs of goods, right? Again, this is empowering consumers. You can go online, you can find out, you can find various prices for goods. You can, when you walk into a store, an informed consumer can know exactly what they want to pay for something. They can get technical specifications. There's a lot of information, and it makes it so that there is a lot more empowerment of consumers and a lot more transparency for organizations. Personalization and customization. Being able to modify messages so that, or your marketing information so that it is very personalized to a particular niche, a particular customer group. You can even have products and services that are customized for individuals, okay? And the e-commerce helps to facilitate a lot of this. And social technologies are facilitated using e-commerce, okay? These are technologies that promote user content. Social networking and social networks are extremely popular and really on the rise. Different types of social networks. You know, right now Facebook is the the most popular social network. You know, in 5-10 years, there could be something else that comes out that takes its place, right? So some of the key concepts in e-commerce. E-commerce helps to these digital markets. They help to reduce this idea of information asymmetry, which is when you have two parties in a transaction, having one party have more information about the transaction than the other. It's sort of a power balance in that transaction. The e-commerce helps to reduce that. And obviously with search costs and transaction costs, it helps to reduce all of that. Menu costs have to do with a vendor having to make changes to their offerings and the cost that goes into that. They help to reduce those costs, and they enable price discrimination, which good or bad, which price discrimination has to do with charging different groups different prices for the same good, right? You can think of some industries where price discrimination is something that is prevalent. airline industry, right? Two people sitting next to each other on a flight can have paid completely different prices for basically essentially the same seat, right? So there's certain markets where the price discrimination is very prevalent, but e-commerce actually helps to enable that. Dynamic pricing, which is pricing that can change dynamically, and then disintermediation, which actually in Chapter 9 we talked about, but disintermediation is cutting out partners in the supply chain, so having manufacturers that sell directly to the ultimate consumer instead of selling through a wholesaler or a retailer. Okay. Now this shows you in a very concrete way what some of the benefits of disintermediation are to the consumer, right? So a typical supply chain. Your manufacturer sells through a distributor to a retailer to the consumer, right? A particular good, right? $48.50. Because of obviously, at every level there's going to be a level of markup. Distributor and retailer wouldn't be selling this good if they weren't making money on it somehow, right? You cut out one partner, right? Lowers the price. You can cut out complete disintermediation where you're selling directly to the consumer. You can even cut that price further. Now, there's a couple of reasons why organizations have to be careful about disintermediation. Okay? As the manufacturer, you don't want to undercut your supply chain partners to the point that they decide that they're not going to carry your good anymore. Right? If this were reality, where a manufacturer could sell directly to the consumer at over 50% discount, there's a decent chance that one of these supply partners might decide not to carry that good anymore. Because as a consumer, right, you're going to go directly to a retailer and pay over 50%, or are you going to go online, get on the phone, purchase directly from the manufacturer, and get it at half the cost or cheaper? Right? So manufacturers have to be really careful about disintermediation because they don't want to burn any bridges and end up closing any distribution channels you don't want to burn bridges, all right? They also have to think about when they decide to start selling to the ultimate consumer, changing the way things like logistics and service, right? So a manufacturer, instead of selling to a distributor or retailer where they're dealing with bulk purchases, right? Pallets worth of goods that they're selling, selling to a few distributors or retailers. Now they're dealing with individual customers. They're dealing with after sales service. There's a whole bunch of additional costs that they take on when they decide they're going to sell to the customer. They have to change the way that things like logistics, service, they have to change a whole bunch of those things when they decide that they're going to sell to the customer. They have to take all of those additional costs into account. Other concepts in e-commerce include things like digital goods. There are certain products that are a very, very good fit for e-commerce, right? Music, entertainment, other types of digital entertainment, books. When I purchase an e-book online, whether I am getting it from, whether I'm purchasing it from iBooks or whether I am purchasing it from Amazon, right? I'm expecting that no matter where I'm purchasing that book, it's going to be the same book. It's going to have the same content, right? I purchase an MP3 from Amazon, from iTunes. Wherever I'm purchasing it from, it should be the same song, the same music, maybe hopefully the same quality, right? So those entertainment goods are very, very well suited to e-commerce and to that particular type of model of selling to the customer. Okay. There other markets that are probably not as good a fit, right? Things like groceries. Okay, when you think about groceries, there's certain types of groceries. What are some categories of groceries that people generally tend to like to pick out themselves? Produce, right? Meat, maybe, right? So there's certain types. I mean, you can go online right now. You can go to Vons.com and you can order and have somebody, pick out these things for you. But for some of us, whether I like my bananas green, you like your bananas with just a little bit of green, and not, the bananas are one of those things that have all kinds of. There's a whole spectrum of different types, right? So those types of goods, clothing, especially women's clothing, right? A size 8 in pants for women, it's going to be different depending on the manufacturer, depending on, so things like that, clothing, stuff like that. There's certain goods that it's a little bit less of a very clear-cut, good fit, okay? And there are some industries that are undergoing a whole lot of change because of this, the use of e-commerce to sell those goods, right? So some of the issues in regards to piracy of digital goods, right? The fact that it is extremely easy once you get a hold of a movie, digital music, to share that music, those products, right? There's a whole set of ethical concerns. There's a whole set of other concerns, and certain industries are still really struggling with how to deal with the capabilities that this technology gives consumers to share goods, to make copies of their goods. How do they get paid for it? How do they regulate it without stifling creativity? It's a huge issue in this area. Okay. All right. Different types of commerce, and they always bring this up in e-commerce, the e-commerce chapter, but really any type of commerce, whether it is electronic commerce or regular, you still have these categories. The most business relationships are business to consumer. All right, business to consumer is a business selling to an individual. Business to business is probably the second most common type of business relationship. Is a business selling to another business. Consumer to consumer. Can you think of any relationships, consumer to consumer type of models that are out there? eBay? eBay is definitely an example. eBay is a third party that facilitates that transaction to a seller and a buyer meeting, and facilitates that happening. And then of course mobile commerce is a whole area onto itself where any one of these transactions can happen using a mobile interface. Some of these other e-commerce business models include things like a portal, right? And we've talked a little bit about different types of portals. When we talk about this, they're really talking about commercial portals like Yahoo, MSN, Bing, that type of thing. You can a retailer, an e-commerce retailer. A content provider, a transaction broker, right? You have an example of a transaction broker. PayPal would be an example of that, right? Because that's what all PayPal does. They facilitate the exchange of funds from one group to another, one person to another. Right? Market creator, a service provider, community provider, right? So these are all different possible business models that are out there that different organizations can decide to adopt. And they all have their own revenue generating models. that go along with these. So in e-commerce, it's important to talk about where's the money. Where are the ways that organizations generate revenue? Okay, advertising is definitely number one. Okay, e-commerce is used, extensively for different types of advertising and marketing, getting information to your consumer, getting awareness out there. Ads that connect your organization to other web pages so that your consumer or your target market can find your information, right? Search engines are all about advertising revenue, okay? Sales, actually selling your good online, would be the second e-commerce revenue model. Subscriptions, a subscription-based model is where you have some kind of reoccurring cost. It could be a monthly cost, it could be a yearly cost. There's all kinds of different subscription models. With the subscription e-commerce model, a lot of organizations do this sort of tiered level of subscription. They'll start out with some kind of free level where you have less, if it's like cloud storage, you get a small amount of storage. If you want to expand, you have to pay. You might get access to less features. It might be a limited, some kind of limited free account that you can upgrade to a subscription where you're actually paying for the services, okay? And then, of course, a lot of free services are supported in some way by advertising revenue or some other additional revenue. So, free web hosting. You create a website and you use this free web hosting when your website will most likely have banner ads or some other advertising that supports it, right? Transaction fees, actually paying per transaction, okay? Or affiliates, which is where you have, banner ads or some other connection from one organization to another to get information out. Now, I can give you an example of kind of an affiliate thing. Zynga is currently one of the largest creators of web-based social games, right? You can think of some of the if you're on Facebook, you can't get onto Facebook without running into some Zynga game. Okay, they do a lot of affiliate type of marketing actually in their games. In some of their games, they'll have promotions where you can get special, special digital goods within the game that are themed. Zynga's Farmville actually had a promotion with Lady Gaga for a while, where you could get, that was promoting her new album. Right, and you could get like special Farmville digital goods that were like themed for Lady Gaga. Right, they do, and they get money for that because because it is a way of getting awareness out about this affiliate product, whatever it is. Okay, so affiliate marketing is a big one also. Okay. Social networking is currently the most popular Web 2.0 service that's out there. Okay, and there's when you think of social networking in a very wide net, there's all kinds of technologies that are up and coming that are social networking type of, or very social types of technologies, right? You have your actual social networks. You've got things like Twitter, which some people think it's a social network, others don't, right? You have social types of tools, things like, I don't know if you've heard of Pinterest. It is a way of sharing images and information in this virtual pinboard. It has a social component donate to it because you can view other people's things. You can repost their stuff. There are other types of social technologies. There's check-in and location-based ones like Foursquare. There's one called Get Glue. I don't know if you've heard of it. You check into TV and movies, and you actually get stickers that you can order real copies of those stickers, and entertainment companies use that as a way of generating interest about their shows, their movies, other types of digital entertainment, books, music, all kinds of stuff. Okay. With e-commerce, you also have this idea of the crowdsourcing or wisdom of the crowds, and this is a concept that a large number of people will make better decisions than individuals will. Okay, so you can get information on topics that is crowdsourced, that comes from a large amount of people, and it's going to hopefully be better information than it would if it was just a single person. You also have prediction markets where you can, bet on specific outcomes. Now, for e-commerce marketing, the internet provides a way of marketers to get a hold of, identify customers in ways that they couldn't before. Okay, long tail marketing, and we talked about this idea of the long. Did we talk about this idea of the long tail before? Do you guys remember? Does that sound familiar? In a web-based market, the long tail refers to let's take movies, for example. Netflix can afford to market to the long tail of the movie market. That means that they can carry a wide variety of different movies, not just new releases, not just the movies that a lot of people are interested in, but a whole variety of older and niche movies that a few people are looking for, which is called that long tail, right? Because they don't have a physical, have to have a physical location where they keep all of these things. So Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster keeps, if you go into a Blockbuster store or a physical video store, you're going to find whole rows of all of the newest releases, and they're going to have a lot of copies of those same new releases. Okay. If you're looking for some older movie, a niche movie, there's a good chance you probably won't find it unless you're looking at something online like Netflix or something, because that refers back to having this very large inventory and having a larger amount of different movies and different products. Okay, e-commerce businesses can afford to market to the long tail. They can afford to have a larger variety of books or movies or music, where their physical competition can't afford to do that because they only have so much space on their shelves. They really have to keep things they know are going to move and they know people are going to be interested in. Okay, so e-commerce allows businesses to be able to have much larger inventories because they don't have the limitations of having to, the physical showroom or the physical store that, that their counterparts or their competition would have. You can do things like behavioral targeting, which is tracking your online behavior. And And there's a lot of different advertising formats. Search engine, displaying ads, rich media, email, that are all more targeted and much cheaper than traditional types of marketing, like sending posts and actual, physical marketing information. Much cheaper to do that. Email is one of the cheapest ways of sending out information, sending out marketing types of advertising and information. This is an example of website visitor tracking. Different clicks, where it actually will, a lot of websites will track visitors as they click through the website, as they navigate. There's different reasons why websites and businesses want to follow and track visitors. They may want to figure out how people are navigating through their websites. Do they need to make changes? Are there things that people find hard? They may want to try to figure out why people abandon shopping carts. I don't know if you've ever abandoned a shopping cart. You go in, you put an item into a shopping cart. I've abandoned shopping carts because I didn't know the shipping until I actually got to the end and hit calculate shipping, and all of a sudden I realized the shipping is more than the item I wanted to purchase, right? So there's different, but businesses, if they have a lot of that happening, they want to know why. And so the tracking their web visitors is sort of the first step to seeing what's actually going on and seeing what people are actually doing, how they're navigating through their websites. Okay? And this is just one example of some of the data that businesses can keep and collect about web visitors. Okay? Website personalization, right? There are some organizations that do a really, really good job of personalizing their websites for web visitors. Amazon is one example. When you go into Amazon's web page, if you're logged in, right, they keep, even if you're not logged in, they keep track of everything that you are looking at. They keep track of the last few products you looked at, so that if you want to go back to them, you can easily go, kind of a breadcrumb sort of model. You go on there, they will show you recommendations based on your past orders, recommendations based on what things that you looked at and were interested in. Maybe you looked at, the other day I looked at pet stairs. I have a really small little chihuahua we just got and a really high bed, and she can't get up onto our bed. So I was looking at pet stairs so that she can get up and down without us having to put her, to lift her. And the other day I got an email that said people that were interested in pet stairs, and here's, kind of following up on that, because obviously I was interested if I was looking, right? So they keep that information, hoping to, at some point, maybe generate an additional sale from me as a customer, okay? But there are, some of the ways that they personalize these web pages, right? You go on, you're logged in, it says hello with your name, it will give you, personalized information, and the level of personalization is going to vary from one organization to another, as far as, what's appropriate. But again, Amazon actually does a really, really good job of integrating it into their web page without it being creepy. Because if you have too much personalization, too much tracking, it can be a little bit unsettling, I think, for the user. Okay. This shows you how advertising, an advertising network, particularly DoubleClick, how it actually works. Where, and these are like banner types of advertising where you click on something, it opens up a new web page, takes you to the advertiser's page. There's a whole revenue model that is, there's revenue that's generated. There's, for every click on a banner or other type of advertising, there's so much per click that the hosting web page organization actually gets. The models are different. It's usually so much percentage of a penny per click. So they have to get a whole lot of clicks to actually generate a decent amount. But this shows you how that type of advertising works. Okay. For business-to-business commerce, there are a few tools that businesses can use to exchange information and connect with each other online. EDI, or electronic data interchange, is one such tool. EDI is a facilitated point-to-point type of communication where you are exchanging information with another organization. EDI is expensive to set up. There are multiple standards of EDI that exist, which means that if my organization has multiple suppliers and my suppliers all use different EDI standards, it's going to be, I have to spend a lot of money just to get onto one of those standards. I really have to decide which supplier is the most important for me to be able to exchange data using EDI. Okay, so it's some of the downfalls of it. It's expensive to implement. It's expensive. There's there's a lot of expensive ongoing costs. So once you have it up and running, you still have to pay to maintain it and keep it going. Okay, but if you have EDI, it can greatly speed up the interactions you have with other companies, exchanging information, placing orders that are all electronic, and having payments that are delivered, invoices and payments that are delivered electronically, not having to rely on regular mail and checks and other types of more manual processes that draw out these types of procedures. Okay. So this is an example of EDI, and again, with EDI, you can, once you are connected to another organization using EDI, you can exchange any type of information electronically, right? Including things like payments, right? Shipping, orders, invoices, any information that you can exchange can be sent using EDI. But like I said, it is expensive to set up and it's expensive to maintain, and there are multiple standards that exist. Private exchanges. This is another option for sharing data, business-to-business data. These permit the sharing of product design and development, marketing, production scheduling, any other unstructured communication, email, graphics, just sending and receiving different types of data. Okay, this is using basically it's using an extranet. Okay, and we talked about intranets versus extranets. Both of those networks use the internet as the basic technology that supports it. An intranet is internal to the organization. An extranet is connecting with your customers, your suppliers, your affiliates outside the organization. So a private network is using an extranet to share information. Okay, so, and again, these visuals, right, it shows how an organization can use this private industrial network to connect to other organizations. Okay. You also have net marketplaces or e-hubs. This is a single market for many buyers and sellers. So it's one hub that connects buyers and sellers of raw materials, other types of goods together. It can be industry owned or owned by an independent intermediary. And the revenue model is, it generates some revenue from transaction fees or other services. It may focus on indirect or direct goods, and it might be a vertical or horizontal type of marketplace. It can be one, either one of them. Okay, so the marketplace model, again, it's a hub that connects different suppliers and buyers together, keeps all of the information about the products that the suppliers offer, sourcing, procurement, fulfillment. It keeps all of that information in one place, so it facilitates the connection between these suppliers and buyers. You also have exchanges. These are independently owned third-party net marketplaces. They connect, and again, it's connecting suppliers and buyers together. These are typically for vertical markets. For a single industry, things like food and electronics are two examples of industries that use this type of exchange. Proliferated during the early years of e-commerce. There were a lot of them during the early years, not so many anymore. They've been sort of replaced by some of the other types of exchanges that are there. Okay. And then mobile commerce. Mobile commerce is actually on the rise, okay, because again, the smartphones that we have available to us and the capabilities of these smartphones, particularly because of the application type of smartphone, where you have a smartphone that has its basic Android and iPhone particularly that have this basic set of capabilities and have the ability to host additional applications that you can download. So it really doesn't limit the capabilities of your smartphone. Right? There's so many new applications that are always coming out. There's quite a few different organizations that you can connect with using these applications. Okay? And these are just some examples of some of the things you can do using, your phone, right? Location-based banking and financial services, wireless advertising, games and entertainment. These are all revenue-generating models. Okay? So this kind of shows you some of the consolidated revenues from mobile commerce that are on the rise, and they're projected to be continuously on the rise moving forward. Okay, for an organization, one of the major tools that organizations utilize to get information about their organization and their products out is a website. Okay, it's kind of one of the basic tools. For an organization to decide to create a website, it's gotten a lot easier than it used to. It used to be you can create a website and you don't have to write any code. There's a lot of tools. There's free hosting that's out there. For large organizations, they usually are going to have to get a team together, and there's different areas that they have to make sure they have representation on. Right? You have to have people that know the technology, people that know website design, right? Because there's a whole area of website design, what different types of colors, different how much content you have on your website. Is it very cluttered? Should it not be? Should it be more images? Right? And you can look at websites and get a feel for the business based on their website. Okay? Social and information policies, right? If we're gathering information about our customers, what do we do with it and how do we keep that information? How are we interacting with our customers using social networks and other social technologies? And then, of course, all of the hardware and software and other infrastructure pieces that go into having a website and hosting that website. Okay? Customers' demand should drive the website, the technology and the design. Okay? So for a good website, you don't want the technology to drive what the website looks like and what it can do. The business should drive that. Okay? It's easy to get caught up in all of the different types of things that your website can do, all of the different types of technologies that you can integrate, but if it doesn't fit your business model, if it doesn't fit your target market and what they're looking for, then it's not going to work. Okay? So again, you have to look at the business objectives, right? What is it that you're trying to do having a website? Is it information only? Is it going to be e-commerce? Are you actually going to sell goods using your website? So you have to think about what type of web presence you want to have and what fits your organization. All right? System functionality, what do you want that website to do? Okay? Do you need a shopping cart, some kind of payment system? And again, a lot of this stuff, the technology stuff, it's a lot easier than it used to be. There are companies that will do GoDaddy's kind of an example. You can buy your domain and you can host your enterprise level web page using GoDaddy, right? From the beginning of buying that domain and securing that domain all the way down to hosting the website and enabling you to get access to a lot of the technologies that are available when you have a website. All right, and then of course information requirements, right? If you are dealing with exchanging information that should be secured, how are you securing that information? How are you making the customer feel like not only are you actually securing and encrypting the data, but you're making the customer feel secure about the transaction. Okay, I don't know if you've, when I'm looking for a certain product, especially when it's technology stuff, wires, stuff for my cell phones, cases, right? I'll do a Google search, and I found some websites where you look at them, real cheap prices, but when you look at the website, it looks kind of, I wouldn't feel comfortable giving them my payment information because it just looks like maybe they just kind of set it up and it doesn't look professional and it doesn't feel like it would be secure. Okay, as a customer, that's a customer thing, right? So, I mean, it's important to make, if that's what you're going to be doing, you're going to be facilitating transactions, that you make the customer feel like you are, that their information is going to be secure and that you're going to, you're going to make sure that, that they feel good about their transaction and going to your, your website. Now, there's different ways of building a website. You can build it in-house. You can have somebody else do it. You can kind of mix responsibility. Maybe you have some people who can do some stuff in-house. They are working with outside organizations to build the website. And again, it depends on the type of organization you are, how large you are. If you're a big organization, it's probably going to be something you're going to spend a lot of time, effort, and money on. Right? Small organization, maybe you're gonna find somebody who knows how to build websites and pay them to do it for you, kind of thing. So it really depends. Big organizations, they can spend thousands to millions per year on their websites. Okay, and not just getting the website up and running, but keeping the website fresh. If you're selling goods, right? You want your homepage to change, maybe showing different promotions that you're doing, links to clearance items, things that change. If you are trying to get people to come back to your website over and over again, you need to have fresh content and you need to keep track of that. There has to be a reason for a customer to keep coming back to a website, right? And 50% of that budget, system maintenance and content creation, because again, it's all about what's on there and it's about, is it fresh? Is there a reason for me to go back? Are there new products? Is there something new for me to see? Okay? So again, this is a nice little matrix, kind of shows you the different options for building websites, right? In-house, outsourcing, right? And when you're looking at that, building the site and hosting the site, both of these things you can do in-house or you can outsource, all right? Hosting the site is once the site is up and running, who has the servers? Do you keep those in-house? Are you paying somebody else to host your website on their servers? And what's the agreement? How much are you paying? Stuff like that. So again, you can look at each one of these pieces, and you can do outsourcing or doing in-house of any of these pieces. So this is a nice little matrix to give you an overview of those different options. Okay. This is just one example of, the different components of a website budget, right? Maintenance, system development, telecommunications, software, hardware, content design, development. And again, this is like, one company, the way that the, a website, money, the assets for a particular organization, what they're spending money on is going to differ from one organization to another, based on, what is the purpose of their website? Why, are they trying to drive people to the website, keep them coming? There's a lot of different reasons why you might spend different amounts on different parts of that particular budget.